press to the courts, to the links, the fast turns, and the home run. Heard only on Source Radio Network. You're now listening to Sports Tuesday with your host, Steve Manderson.
Welcome back to Sports Tuesday. I'm Steve Manderson. Talked about what's going on in the NFL as far as the NFL starting their regular season this past weekend. Baseball is in about to finish up their regular season, starting the playoffs. But the NBA is going to be starting their training camps in a couple of weeks or so. But right now, I want to talk about the 2018 NBA Hall of Fame inductees and the person that I am welcoming back to Sports Tuesday. He is the he's sports writer for True Hoops Network, and he does a whole lot of other stuff in regards to the NBA. He covers the Atlanta Hawks. He covers the LA Lakers, which that's going to be interesting for him, especially with King James there. But we're going to be talking about the NBA inductees. Let me welcome back to Sports Tuesday, Ronald Agers. Ronald, how are you?
Doing all right, Steve. Thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yes. It's been a while. I know it's my fault, but I'm glad you're back. And busy man from what we talked about with you, covering two NBA teams and stuff. But Hall of Fame inductees, 13 people this year, but we'll talk about 9 of them or so, and really a very interesting class of Hall of Famers this year. You're talking Jason Kidd, Ray Allen, Steve Nash, Grant Hill, Maurice Cheeks, Charlie Scott, Rod Thorn, Coach Lefty Driesell, WNBA Hall of Famer Tina Thompson. So we'll talk about these 9, and is it surprising the fact that this is an excellent group? Are you surprised they're all in one shot? Did you think that maybe it'd be spaced out a little more over the course of the years?
No, I didn't. And some of these inductees have been strung out a little bit. You mentioned Charlie Scott. He's been there for. He's a little late with him being put in, even though he's deserving. Lefty Driesell. I mean, there were some things attached to him that might have held him out a little bit. But Rod Thorn, a great contributor to the NBA. I mean, there's just so many things, so many stories that are amazing stories that are attached to Rod Thorn. So, no, I don't think so. I think this is a deserving group. I think it's a very, very, very good group. One of those iconic classes that people will look back on for years to come.
I agree. Why, in your opinion, do you think that Maurice Cheeks and Charlie Scott took so long to get inducted?
Well, let's start with Maurice Cheeks. I mean, understand who Maurice Cheeks was playing with. I mean, he was playing in the glory years of the Philadelphia 76ers, playing with the 4-4-4 Sixers, but it turned out to be 4-5-4 Sixers with Dr. J. Charles Barkley came in after that title-winning team. Moses Malone, Andrew Cheeks. There was just so many great personalities on that team that Maurice Cheeks was the guy. He was the guy that set the table in a sense. Charles Barkley used to always say that he was blind in one eye and had Dr. J in the other when he was running the break. But it's things like that. Just that he was just a real calm, laid-back type of guy. He wasn't a guy that looked for attention, did not look for the brand making as you see today. People wanting to be on television, chasing endorsements, getting their names out in social media in a sense. Maurice Cheeks was not that type of guy. And that's why he's so respected in the league. It was reported that when he found out that he was going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, he's now an assistant coach for the Oklahoma City Thunder, he broke down and cried, because you got to understand the true worth of Maurice Cheeks, you have to be a basketball purist. I mean, he's a dude that knew how to play basketball. He wasn't a slam dunker. He wasn't a guy that would cross you over, but he knew how to play the game in a sense. That's what makes Maurice Cheeks who he is. And Charlie Scott, let me tell y'all something. Y'all need to do your research and Google this guy. Charlie Scott could play some ball, all right? I mean, he came out of UNC, so automatically, first off, he was one of the first NBA players at the time, 5-time All-Star during his career at ABA, NBA. You had to understand he could play fundamental basketball, but he had a level of flash to it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I mean, everybody wants to shoot the 30-footers like Steph Curry these days, but nobody can shoot. They think shooting 3 out of 10 from 30 feet is doing something, but you shoot 30% from the field. You don't have an understanding of the flash that you're doing. Charlie Scott was one of the first guys to do that, understanding how to play basketball, understanding that he can go through the legs and have a little bit of flash and flair to his game, but he understood that it's not wasting any flashy moves that he has. There's a purpose to any move that he does. So with Charlie Scott, I'm surprised that he wasn't in sooner, but I'm glad he did get in because, like I said, these inductees are about basketball purists. And when I say that, purists that know the game of basketball, study the game of basketball, and appreciate how the game is played. We understand the athleticism is wonderful in the NBA. They're the best athletes in the world.
Yes.
But just because you can jump high or shoot a basketball from 25, 30 feet or whatever the case may be, and you can score 20 to 25 points a game, does not mean you really know how to play basketball. There's a big difference.
That's a good point. So in your opinion, the flashiness back then, and you feel, kept him out? Because I know these sports writers are tough when it comes to choosing here and there. But I didn't see where it was any big deal. He was a hell of a player. I mean, his numbers, looking at him right now, 10,000 points. He averaged 17 points a game. He averaged 3.6 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 3-time All-Star, NBA champion in 76, and I would have to assume that was with the Boston Celtics.
Yes.
Yes. And, well, I am happy for him. Went to his first team was with the Virginia Squires in the old ABA.
Yeah, and also understand he was drafted by the Boston Celtics. And who was running the Boston Celtics back in the 70s? That would be Red Auerbach. And
That's
Red
right.
Auerbach is not going to bring anybody into the Boston Celtics that cannot play. Let's understand that real quick. But going back to, does the flash hurt him in a sense? You have to understand that now the NBA is marketed in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times now you want to see the high-flying dunks. You want to see the 25 to 30-foot jump shots. I mean, the stuff that Steph Curry does now with the handles and shooting these fadeaways and these difficult shots. Back in Charlie Scott's time, if he tried that, Steph Curry would be on the last guy on the bench, or he would be cut. So there was a lot of restraint on the talents of a lot of basketball players, especially African-American basketball players. Charlie Scott played college ball at the University of North Carolina. He was the first black scholarship athlete. You know what I'm saying? Averaging 22 points and 7.1 per game at UNC. And then averaging 27 points game in his senior season, two-time All-American. You know this dude could play. He was really outstanding. And I think he probably went to the ABA with the Virginia Squires because, you know something, they celebrated the flash. They celebrated the three-point shot, the showmanship. And that probably appealed more to him than the fundamental style that the NBA had back in the 70s. So in a sense, it probably did hurt him in a sense. He started in the NBA and then started in the ABA and came over to the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think more of it is that people do not understand or realize how good some of these older players are and how good they were.
Well, I tell you, he played for North Carolina, Dean Smith. That's where the fundamentals, you play for Dean Smith, you're going to learn the fundamentals of basketball because that's all they did. Okay,
yes.
and some of the great players coming out, including, Michael Jordan, all of them have one thing in common. They played under Dean Smith, and Dean Smith was all about fundamentals, making the extra pass, none of this high-flying stuff. Jordan didn't start doing that kind of stuff until he came into the NBA.
Absolutely.
But the thing is, it's all about learning the fundamentals of the game, of which, in all honesty, we'll talk a little bit about that later, but I don't see fundamental basketball being played in the NBA today. I don't, and it bothers the hell out of me.
And you know something? I say this all the time. You can't buy rims on a car that you ain't bought yet.
Yeah.
And what that means is you can do all these flashy things and whatnot, and do all this dribbling, but if you haven't scored a basket or you're not getting your teammates involved or making them better, you're just not going. You're not doing anything. I mean, if I play somebody like that doesn't know how to play, but they got handles or something like that, and they just dribbling between their legs and one mixtape style from the 5, 10, 15 years ago, I can just stand there and look at you. And to players that know how to play, that's what's going to happen. And you got to understand, Charlie Scott is from New York. You know what I'm saying? From New York City. So playing of street ball, playing in the Rucker and Bed-Stuy and all these places in the boroughs of New York, you have to know these guys know how to play, or you're going to get run off the court, or they're not even going to let you on the court. And I see also that, hey, he went to Laurinburg Institute. Now, that's in Laurinburg, North Carolina, and I'm not even sure it's still in effect today. If it is, it's probably not. It's not as esteemed as it was before. But Laurinburg Institute used to be those high school prep. What we have in Oak Hill today, that's what was happening. Laurinburg Institute was Oak Hill back in the 70s, in the 60s and the 70s. That was the hotbed of high school basketball prep players in the country at the time. So for him coming down from New York and goes to Laurinburg Institute, this ought to give you an understanding of how good this guy is.
Yes, that is true. That is true. And going back to Maurice Cheeks, and I'm looking at his numbers, as I said, he should have been a Hall of Famer a long time ago. This guy averaged 11 points a game, 6.7 assists, and 2.1 steals. NBA champion with the Sixers in '83. And that was a great Sixers team. that had Julius, Moses Malone, Andrew Toney, Bobby Jones, I mean, Caldwell Jones. I mean, that was one of the great, as far as Philadelphia, that was one of the great Sixers teams of all time. And four-time NBA All-Star, all defense. That's the thing I liked about Maurice. He knew how to play defense on that end. Four-time all defense first team, and he was also on second team as well. This, as I was saying, this guy should have been a Hall of Famer at least 15 years ago.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But like I said again, he was the quiet guy. He was the glue guy, and I think people tend to overlook that. And when you see him coming in 78, 79, and 79, 80, you can see when he came in, Philadelphia was changing the identity in a sense to build a championship. In other words, less is more. You got to understand in the 70s, remember, they had Dr. J. They had Lloyd Free, a.k.a. World B. Free,
right.
George McGinnis, and these guys, Doug Collins. They were like Darryl Dawkins. These guys was rock stars. You know what I'm saying? This is,
yes.
I mean, you talk about the Lakers now with LeBron James and all of these guys coming in and what Magic Johnson is building now, or Showtime when Magic Johnson played. In the 70s, that was the Philadelphia 76ers. You had the afro, the free-flowing afro of Dr. J, the slam dunks. I mean, they were rock stars.
Yes.
But then Portland came in with Bill Walton. They played together, and they upset the Sixers. And then you realize just because you have talent, you got to have somebody that's willing to sacrifice their game or play defense just like you said. Because that's very important. Your point guard has to be able to play defense on the point guard so you can stop the penetration that breaks down the defense and opens up easy baskets for the opponent. This is something that Maurice Cheeks realized and he understood. He knew his spot in it. He could have complained and said, look, I'm running the ball and I'm running the point and I could manipulate the game and not get the ball to Dr. J or get it down to Moses Malone or something like that. But he was a very important part of that championship team. Granted, you got to have your superstars. That's fine. But you got to have players that are willing to do their jobs, do it professionally, and understand the bigger picture when it is to winning championships.
Yes. Grant Hill. I'm very happy for him because, in all honesty, the latter part of his career was just marred with injuries. And I did not think that his body of work was enough in the eyes of the critics and the sports writers to get him voted in, because he missed a good part of his career toward the end. I mean, the way he started out, I mean, he had Hall of Fame written on him within the first 5 years of his career. Then the ankle surgeries really hurt him. And I felt that he had to retire at the time that he did because he didn't have the elevation anymore. He didn't have none of that anymore. And that was one of the things about his game that I enjoyed, the way he ascended into the air. I mean, his career at Duke was awesome. And he carried it over when he played for the Pistons. And I was like, oh my God. Did it surprise you that he got inducted?
No, I'm not. And I'm gonna disagree with you wholeheartedly on what's going on, and I'm gonna break it down why. All right, listen, everybody. I'm gonna be honest with you. Listen, I wrote an article on hawkshoops.net, and Grant Hill actually got back to me and said, great job on the article. So I'm going to get that out the way so it's not before I start being giddy about this guy. But we got to understand also is the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame is not the NBA Basketball Hall of Fame. I think a lot of people get that misconstrued. It's basketball in general. Because I saw one of the 13 members, Dino Rogers, on the list of being in the Hall of Fame. I'm going, Dino Rogers, what did he do? But it's all about the body of work in basketball, including college, including the NBA. But we got to break down what has happened with Grant Hill in his career. Number one, you mentioned Duke. Everybody will tell you. Now, listen, the stars that the media put out for everybody to think is the stars of the Duke Blue Devils was who? Bobby Hurley and Christian Laettner, right?
Right.
But everybody knows, and we were just talking about Maurice Cheeks and being quiet and understanding the game enough to be the glue guy in a sense. Everybody knew Grant Hill was the best player on that team. Everybody knows those national titles do not happen without Grant Hill. When they beat the Fab Five, with Chris Webber, Jalen Rose, Jimmy King, Ray Jackson, Juwan Howard.
Right.
They couldn't stop Grant Hill. That was the problem. They could not stop him and his athleticism. They put the lockdown for a good little while on Christian Laettner. Bobby Hurley played okay, and he kept games close in the first half. But in the second half, it was Grant Hill that dominated. It dominated the second half for them to win. And everybody remembers the long that alley-oop dunk when he had the flat top wasn't combed out straight enough, just that in the third and threw it in. When Bobby Hurley threw it into the 17th row of the arena. People remember that. And understand this, and I'm going to say this, and I want everybody to pay attention to this. Grant Hill was LeBron James 10 years before LeBron James came in the NBA. What do I mean by that? He was a stat stuffer. He was one of 5 or 6 players that averaged 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in his first 6 years in the league. And you have to understand, Doug Collins was his coach in Detroit. Yeah. Which means Doug Collins will have you, if you're the best player, and Michael Jordan, you can say, look back to Michael Jordan when he was in Chicago. He will have his best player selling the hot dogs, taking out the peanuts, closing up the arena, dribbling the ball, scoring, rebounding, assisting, thanking the fans for coming out. Everything there is to be done on a basketball court, Doug Collins will have you doing that. And what Grant Hill did was wonderful. And understand this, when Michael Jordan went to go play baseball for those 18 months, who was the player that the NBA latched their branding marketing scheme to? Grant Hill.
That's right.
Remember those Fila shoes back in the day?
Yes.
Hey, listen, when they re-released them things, you better believe a brother got some.
I like
because those things were tight. Those shoes were tight. They were Air Jordans for about a year. They were the hottest shoes going at the time. And when he had those ankle injuries and stuff like that, here's why he should be in the Hall of Fame. He knew enough to adjust and adapt his game to prolong his career. He played in the league for 19 years.
He did, yes.
And he was effective for those years. A lot when he was healthy and he was on the floor, he was effective. He was very, very effective. In Phoenix, the 7 seconds or less, again, he adapted his game like Maurice Cheeks, like we said before. He had Steve Nash on that squad, Amari Stoudemire, and on top of that, talk about being a professional, Mike D'Antoni is your coach, right? Yeah. You better believe you better be in shape and get your body back to where it needs to be to play in that offense.
Yes.
And he played 82 games when he was in Phoenix.
He did.
So bringing your game, so in other words, rebuilding your body, and understand something else too. When he had one of those ankle surgeries, he contracted MRSA and had a big bad staph infection. He could have died. He could have died over a MRSA infection. That's a very dangerous staph infection. So to overcome all of those things and be a professional, be an ambassador to the league, it's amazing. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer with that, because a lot of people remember him for being on March Madness, being a play-by-play analyst, being on NBA TV's Inside Stuff and on TNT and stuff like that.
Yeah, but they never really saw him play. Yeah.
They never really saw this guy play. Everybody talk about Allen Iverson's killer crossover.
Mm-hmm.
Grant Hill had a crossover. It was so smooth. By the time you figured out you were crossed over, he's dunking on your center. He's dunking on your big man.
Yeah.
Ask Dikembe Mutombo what it is about it if he can dunk on you, or Alonzo Mourning. I mean, this is a Hall of Famer. This is it's a shame he didn't win a title, but Olympic gold medalist. I mean, this is a guy that just gets it, and he is the blueprint of what athletes should aspire to be on the court and off the court. I mean, he's the part owner of he's part of the ownership group of the Atlanta Hawks.
Oh, okay.
Married to a Grammy-nominated singer, Tamia.
Yeah.
2 daughters, and then during the Hall of Fame speech, he shouts out his daughters and says, "For tonight, you 2 are my Hall of Famers." Dude, that's a bad dude, man. That's a dude that everybody should try to be like. That's the blueprint.
I remember his father, the great Calvin Hill, who was tight end for the Dallas Cowboys back then.
He was a running back. He was a running back.
I'm sorry, but yes. So he came from good stock, in terms of how to carry yourself and everything like that. Because Calvin Hill's coach was the legendary Tom Landry.
Yep, and they were both rookie, and they were also both rookie of the years for their respective sports.
Yes.
I mean, what father-son tandem can you even attach that label to in all sports? I mean, we all talk about Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr. playing together, or LeBron James saying he wants to play with his son when his son gets old enough. He wants to stay in the league long enough for that. But how many fathers and sons win Rookie of the Year in their respective sports? I mean, that's amazing. That's just unheard of in a sense.
That is amazing. That is amazing. My thing with Grant, though, those years with Orlando, which I felt, that's where he got hurt. Those were his prime years, of which who knows what, as I said, if he was able to be at full strength in those years when he went to Orlando, he would have been in the Hall of Fame a lot sooner.
Yep, and understand something else too. Really, the Orlando Magic, the entire franchise, suffered over that because I mean they were gonna build their entire team and build their future on those 2 guys being the stars leading into the future. And also, I mentioned in the HawksHoop.net article, think about mentally. We all talk about overcoming things physically, but think about it mentally. Everybody in the media saying, something, the Orlando Magic giving you $90-some-odd million to play, and you're hurt all the time. Yeah. And then, all athletes have to deal with, the infamous S word, soft or always injured. I mean, how come you can't keep your body together and whatnot, and you're getting all this money? That affects the psyche as well. So him overcoming that as well is something that needs to be looked at. I mean, I think with 19 years being a professional, and trust me, there is nobody, and I mean nobody, they can say a bad thing about this guy. I mean, they all say the same thing about Grant Hill. He's such a nice guy. He's such a nice guy. But even that gets lost in the fact of how talented he was as a basketball player.
That's right. His personality was brilliant. I loved it. And it's like you said, it's too bad that he never got a championship. He's achieved every possible thing you can achieve on the college and the pro level. 7-time NBA All-Star, All-NBA first team, 4-time All-NBA second team. He was actually co-rookie of the year in '95. He was on the All-Rookie first team. two-time NCAA champion, ACC Player of the Year. I mean, we could go on and on. The only thing, his numbers retired at Duke. Um, it's just too bad that he doesn't have a NBA ring to go. An absolute brilliant career, and just imagine if he was healthy all those 19 years.
Yeah, and also throw this in too. He actually a three-time NBA Sportsman of the Year.
Mm.
He won that award 3 times in a row as well. So this is a guy that NBA Sportsmanship Award. I mean, this is something. Sometimes it's not. You got to look past the stats. So, I mean, that's something that I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you play? I mean, just because you're averaging 25 points a night.
Mm-hmm.
And your team loses by 30, I mean, okay, you average 25 points a night, but your team stinks. Grant Hill always was the ingredient to winning basketball.
Yeah.
And that's something that you just need. I mean, everybody can't score 25 points a night. Everybody can't. I mean, we see that with the we just talked about the Philadelphia 76ers in the 76-77 squad that lost to 77-78 squad that lost to Portland.
Right.
You can't. Everybody can't be a star. Somebody has to be able to realize that, hey, there are certain things that I need to do. I need to defend, because he was the defender on the Phoenix Suns team. Because Mike D'Antoni does not coach defense, and I'm pretty sure we all know that he didn't do it in Phoenix.
Nope.
But guess what? Grant Hill saw that and says, okay, right here, I can be able to be that lockdown defender. And understand something. If he's the team captain with Steve Nash,
right,
you can see how much of a locker room guy this guy was. That's very important as well. You need players in the locker room that understand the game and understand professionalism and keep harmony in the locker room. Udonis Haslem just signed up for the Miami Heat for another year, and people keep wondering why in the world do you keep re-signing Udonis Haslem? Get that roster spot to somebody else. But Pat Riley understands that this guy will not play a lot. He will not see the floor a lot. But guess what? He's going to mentor the young guys. He's going to make sure that locker room is straight. He's going to be the sheriff behind Eric Spoelstra. Grant Hill, in a sense, is the same guy when he went to Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's what people miss. Leadership is not always measured in numbers. And Grant Hill is just an all-around type of guy. That's what's getting him in the Hall of Fame. He's an all-around type of basketball player, father, husband, just a man in general.
Yes.
It's just a wonderful thing, and I hope he can bring that professionalism to the Atlanta Hawks, something that they need, a level of structure, a level of knowing what type of players to bring into a franchise. He knows how to do that. So he's setting a culture. He always set a culture at any place that he played at, Detroit, Duke, Orlando when he was there, the Phoenix Suns. He probably even helped out in the Clippers, even with the LA Clippers, even though he didn't play that much. But even then, being able to set a culture and showing how to be a professional, that's worth more in a sense than having a knucklehead on your team scoring 30 points a night.
Yes, and there are a lot of them in the NBA right now, trust me. We just mentioned Steve Nash. I'm very happy for him. I like one of those aggressive point guards that reminded me a lot of John Stockton, and pushing the ball up the court. Had an excellent jumper, and he's another one that unfortunately doesn't have a NBA ring, but he's two-time most valuable player, and his other awards, 8-time NBA All-Star, 3-time All-NBA First Team. This guy had it together. I mean, as he went on in his career, he had leg injuries and knee injuries that cut it short, but he was an amazing guy to watch. He was Phoenix Suns. He's in the Phoenix Suns Ring of Honor. His number 13 is retired by Phoenix. I think if he played with another team, like as you said, D'Antoni was never defensive minded, and they had some great Phoenix Suns teams when Steve Nash played, but unfortunately they always fall short, mainly because they don't play defense. That's the
Yeah.
thing, and that has always been a problem. Now, Steve Nash, interesting. His nationality is Canadian, but he was born in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Hmm.
Very interesting, and went to Santa Clara, and drafted by he was drafted first round draft pick, and in '96. Uh, should this guy have been inducted years earlier, or is this the right time for him?
Oh, it's the right time for him because we realize that this guy is and it's probably his first year being eligible. Let's tell you. Let's make this clear. This is how good Steve Nash is. As of right now, he's the player development consultant for the Golden State Warriors. What does that mean? That means he helps coach Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
He gives advice to Klay Thompson
Mm-hmm.
and the players that are currently the two-time NBA world champions. So, in other words, Joe Lacob, Bob Myers, Steve Kerr said, listen, Steve, can you come in and show our two-time MVP Steph Curry new ideas to make his game more efficient, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, and these guys. Can you help us develop great players as well as our young guys? That's how good Steve Nash is. But it's not a case of Steve Nash just coming in and being all world. He had to earn his spot.
Yes.
I mean, he was drafted by the Phoenix Suns the first time. You got to understand he played 2 times with the Phoenix Suns.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time around, who was he playing with? He was playing with Kevin Johnson.
Yeah.
Jason Kidd.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't going to get any burn. So
No.
they obviously traded him to the Dallas Mavericks. And he struggled in Dallas. The Mavericks booed him. People forget this. Dallas Mavericks booed him. Dirk Nowitzki, who is first ballot Hall of Famer himself, they were booing him as well. These guys were 2 outcasts in the Dallas Mavericks by the Dallas Mavericks fans.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what they did? They worked on their games. They played one-on-one. They hung out with each other.
Mm-hmm.
They continued to work at their game and develop a relationship. That's when the Dallas Mavericks got better. And that's when it came and you saw the Steve Nash that grew into what we see today.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Nash got left Dallas, something Mark Cuban regrets, and he's reportedly said that. Goes back to Phoenix, and then you see what we have as a Hall of Fame career that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with Steve Nash is he was so smart because he was not the biggest dude in the world. He didn't defend very well, but guess what? Steph Curry don't defend very well either. But offensively, he was so efficient, and this dude could shoot.
Yes, he could.
Everybody talk about Steph Curry. Let's put Steve Nash. Now let's let him with a decent back because he had back problems at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But let's put Steve Nash up against Steph Curry in a shooting contest.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna put my money on Steve Nash. The dude could shoot.
He could.
I mean, the dude shot 50% from the field, 40% in threes, and 90% from the line numerous times in his career. What Steph Curry is doing now,
mm-hmm.
Steve Nash was doing back then, but Steve Nash didn't have the flash and the depth and all that on the moves of Steph Curry and the athleticism of Steph Curry. But Steve Nash was doing the same things, but it was just a little bit different. It's just a shame that when he went to L.A., his back was gone by then.
True.
And you understand the pounding in the NBA, playing in the NBA for so long in these long seasons, his back caught up with him by the time he got to L.A. But look, Steve Nash could play some basketball.
One of the things
he knew how to pass the ball. He knew how to run an offense. And understand, you running that 7 seconds or less offensive Mike D'Antoni, and he didn't turn the ball over a lot. So
no, he did
that
not.
ought to tell you how great this guy was. Steph tends to turn the ball over from time to time. Steve Nash, in a sense, was very efficient and careful with the basketball and got the ball to Shawn Marion, Amari Stoudemire, Raja Bell when he was there, Grant Hill. He set the table for all of these guys to be better.
Yeah.
So, yes, Steve Nash was an amazing basketball player, one of my favorites I'd love to watch.
He was a great assist man. I mean, he knew how to dish the ball. That was the other thing I liked about him. When you can score like he does, but at the same time, as they say, the term is sharing the rock. He did that, and I think it's the reason why he was back-to-back MVP in the 2004-2005 season and 2005-2006. So a hell of a talent for a great length of time. He played 1,200 games. He played in 1,200 games.
Yeah, that's a long time.
It is. It is a long time. There's another one that wish to get a ring, but and it was a class act on the field and off the field as well. And those are the kind of players that you look for and you root for. So I'm very happy for Steve. I'll tell you, you don't find too many guys like him with that talent in the NBA now. You really don't see that anymore. So, but he got the job done, which is great. Jason Kidd. Okay, this is a guy. I tell you, Jason Kidd kind of well, the Nets benefited from Jason Kidd, and I really shouldn't say it. It was because of his off the field, off the court situation with the domestic violence back then, and Phoenix wasn't putting up with it, and they sent him to the Nets, and all he did was lead the Nets to back-to-back NBA final appearances. The only highlight of the Nets franchise history, well, NBA history, we all know what they accomplished in the NBA under Julius. His career, as great as it was, had some history there, problems that he had in college and California, and I said the domestic violence early in his career, but it never took away from his talent as one of the great point guards of all time.
No, and I'm gonna tell you something else. Probably one of the greatest winners in the NBA history. One of the greatest winners, because understand he played for the Olympic team, and he retired undefeated. You know what I'm saying? When Coach K tells him to get up to speak, and I saw this in a documentary for the Olympic team, the Redeem team. The first thing he said was, "What we need to do is be on time." That shows that you're committed to the goal that we're trying to accomplish here. You have to understand, I use that when I go to work on anything that I do. I'm on time.
Right.
Because think about what that means. You're on time. You have to be committed to be great. You have to be committed to be a professional. You have to be committed to be coached. You have to be committed to learn. You have to be committed to all of these things. But the first thing you have to do is be on time. If you're late, what's the point?
That's
and
right.
That made a lot of sense. And this guy, and he literally said straight up, when I came in, he came in for the last run with the Olympic team. I want to retire undefeated. I don't want y'all coming in here messing that up. And he is a winner. Now, the greatest winner of all time, obviously, that's Bill Russell. That goes without saying.
Right.
But that's the one thing he does bring in. Did he have his problems? Who doesn't? But look at what he did in Phoenix, and when he came in from Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
When he got with the 3 J's, Jamal Mashburn and Jim Jackson.
Yep.
Those three guys, before they showed up, the Dallas Mavericks was just plain horrible. They were a bad team. No one wanted to see them. Derek Harper, Rolando Blackman, and those guys in the 80s, they had passed on. And they were winning, 13, 14 games a season?
Yeah, they were.
And
they were really horrible. Yeah.
They were really bad. So they are now they brought back the excitement to the Dallas Mavericks. And, I mean, it started with him. I mean, even to today, they're a little bit on the downside, but there is no Steve Nash or Dirk Nowitzki without Jason Kidd, Jim Jackson, and Jamal Mashburn starting it in a sense.
Yes.
Because he knew he was the quintessential point guard. He knew how to get the ball, and he knew his weaknesses and worked on them. Because when he first got in the league, they used to call him Asen Kid because he didn't have no J. I mean, that was the running joke. But by the time he got to the end of his career and he came back with Dallas and they won that title in 2010, 2011, he had a jump shot by then. He could shoot from the 3-point line. And what he brought to the New Jersey Nets is the belief that they could win. Like, we could win this. I mean, he believed that they could beat San Antonio. It just didn't happen.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
San Antonio had that great transition defense, and they pretty much shut down because the Nets had a great running team. I mean, you're talking, Kidd, Kenyon Martin, Richard Jefferson, Kerry Kittles, those 4. I mean, they're always down called transition backers, but they ran up against a very tough San Antonio team who I've actually felt they could have beat San Antonio with that talent.
Yeah, I don't agree in that sense because they were. I mean, that was the glory years of Greg Popovich and that San Antonio squad. There was just too much, and they were too small. They just got overpowered in a sense. But the fact that he got those players to the finals because they were not picked to go to the finals.
Yeah, exactly.
So, honest with you, I don't really think anybody. Ain't nobody truthfully gonna come up and say that. Look, I think Jason Kidd could take Jason. They didn't think they're gonna take him to the playoffs, much less the NBA Finals. But again, it's that intangible of belief, saying, listen here, structure, culture, and I think in character in a sense. This is a character-based class being inducted to the Hall of Fame. It's not all about stats in a sense because his stats is not going to blow you out the water. Even though he was a great assist guy and he was a great rebounding guy, he didn't shoot very well. But he knew how to win, and he actually passed it on to young players and got them got the best out of all of his players in a sense. I mean, granted, did he have his issues at times? Sure. But when you have a 26-game improvement and you lead your team to the first 50-win season in New Jersey's his NBA history, and you make them hot for the first time since Dr. J left, and the Dr. J curse leaves for the time that you're there. Exactly. That ought to tell you how great this guy is. That puts him in the Hall of Fame alone.
I never thought the Nets would go to an NBA Finals, let alone 2 years in a row. I said, "You kidding me?" I figured when the Lakers beat them, and I said, "Okay, it was a nice run," but it shocked the hell out of me when they went back. I was like, "Oh my God, yeah." They had something special for that time, and I think in those 8 years, so that Kidd was with the Nets. I think that was pretty much one of the highlights of his career, and turning an organization like that around for the time that he was there, because they made the playoffs almost every year that he was there.
Yep, absolutely. And there's something that gets left out in a sense, and this ought to tell you how good Jason Kidd was as a leader. When he played with the New York Knicks, The Knicks made the playoffs.
Yeah, that's right. They did.
When he retired and left the Knicks, guess what? Have the Knicks made the playoffs since?
Nope.
That's my point. That's my point right there. It's the leadership and knowing how to win and being able to pass that on to other people around you and making them great. That's the essence of a basketball player, and that's something that he understood.
He had great court awareness. What they used to say, the thing about him was that they said he had eyes in the back of his head.
Yes. So he understood the game. The understanding of the game, and then scoring 25, 30 points a night again is not knowing basketball. That just means you know how to score. But you know how to rebound. You know how to impact the game in all aspects of a basketball game. That's what Jason Kidd understood. And a lot of the point guards in this Hall of Fame class.
Yeah, it is true. I'm very happy for him. Tremendous talent, even in college. You can see it, and I tell you, I know the Nets wish they had him back, even as a coach. Of which, do you think he'll get back into coaching?
If he does come back to coaching, he's going to have to change his game up a little bit. In Brooklyn, there were certain things that he did in Brooklyn. I covered Brooklyn Nets for ESPN's True Hoops network a couple of years ago, Brooklyn's finest, before it disbanded. There was just things that he did that just didn't sit right with me in a sense. The way he treated Lawrence Frank. They bring him in, they pay him a lot of money, and then they fall out literally before the season starts, asking for more power. General manager and decision making, being more power, get more influence in the decision making, things like that. It just didn't work out well. I didn't like that in a sense. And understand this is a veteran team, and I understand he's a rookie in a sense. But if you're a rookie, don't start asking for too many things, and that's something that he did. And in Milwaukee, it was reported that he wasn't getting along with Jabari Parker. He couldn't get what he did on the basketball court as a player. In a sense, he couldn't transform that. He couldn't transcend that as a coach. And Milwaukee had too much talent for them to be like languishing and almost being in quicksand in a sense. They just were not achieving at the level that they should have under Jason Kidd at Milwaukee, especially when Eric Bledsoe was traded in from Phoenix, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak. I mean, my goodness, you have to be better than the team that they had, and it seemed like there was not a level of structure on the floor that that could get them to the top four in the East, which they should have been. So. Can he come back to coaching? Sure, why not? They retread a lot of coaches. But he's going to have to be as successful as a coach as he is on the floor. He's going to have to learn more aspects to coaching, player relationships, dealing with egos, personalities, stuff like that. Plus, you're going to have to get along with the front office. I mean, if you're a head coach in a sense, just because you're winning 50 games does not mean that you're going to be the best coach for that franchise. I mean, take Mark Jackson for instance.
I was just about to say that was his problem.
Coaching for the Golden State Warriors. Guess what? Joe Lacob and his ownership group said this is what we're going to do. They had a blueprint presentation laid out. He wasn't down with it. They told him goodbye. Steve Kerr comes in. Now you see the rest is history.
Yes. Well, I felt Steve Kerr was better qualified to run that team than Mark anyway. I mean, a lot of people said the thing with Mark, they complain, well, that's Mark's team. Yeah, well, maybe so, but with Kerr there, Draymond Green became an all-star. Under Mark Jackson, Green spent a lot of time on the bench.
And understand something else too. Stephen Curry became MVP under Steve Kerr.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't, and again, it shows how you deal with personalities and relationships of your players. You can't just be their friends. You have to coach. Steve Kerr coaches.
Yes, he does.
Is he close with his players? Absolutely. Do they respect him? Absolutely. But he does coach, and that's something at a time Mark Jackson just didn't do. I mean, you got to understand in the NBA, there's a lot of bad basketball. There's a lot of there's only going to be about 4 or 5, maybe 6 teams tops that's got a chance of winning the NBA title. That's why it's easy to analyze. But which means you can win 50 games. It's not very difficult to win 50 games if you have enough talent. But when you get to the semifinals, the conference semifinals, the finals, and whatnot, that's when your weaknesses start getting exposed. When Mark Jackson was the coach, that's what happens.
That's true. And Steve Kerr played for 2 of the greatest coaches in NBA history, Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich. So
absolutely. And understand those two guys, what did they do? Phil Jackson was a master of relationships, dealing with egos.
Right.
Greg Popovich was a master of holding players accountable, especially the stars.
Yeah, Tim Duncan.
That's the deal right there. You take those 2 things, you have the perfect coach.
Yes, you do. One thing before we go on, one more thing about Jason Kidd. When he was with the Nets as a player, the rumor has it that he was kind of responsible for the firing of Byron Scott. How true is that?
Very, very. It's enough to the point that I've done a couple of articles for LakeshowLife.com covering Los Angeles Lakers that I actually thought about doing a special of, because there's a lot of feuds going around with the NBA Hall of Fame inductees last week. There's a lot of storylines going along, but yes, that had a lot to do with it, and Byron Scott is still upset over it to this day. But we got to understand, take the good with the bad. Jason Kidd does have a passive-aggressive line to him. Does that make him is that part of the ingredients to make him a great player, and to the point that he wants to win more in his competitive streak? Sure. But he has been known from time to time to go passive-aggressive and try to distance himself from certain people and whatnot, and then set him up for failure.
Yeah, and to this day, I know Byron Scott's coaching career has not been the same, although I do blame him at times for his choices of teams that he coached. I felt that the last coaching gig was with the Cavaliers after LeBron first left. I didn't think that he should have took the job, especially when that team was not going to amount to anything, and it was the truth. And he didn't have the players. Kyrie Irving was a rookie then and still green behind the ears, and they did not have the talent to go on. And I don't know why Byron took that job, and it cost him dearly.
Well, I mean, we don't understand. I mean, we don't know what really went on behind the scenes. We don't know if he even knew. They probably assumed that Byron Scott was coming in to use that as a sense to keep LeBron James in town the first time around. Byron Scott probably came in thinking, okay, maybe something. I'm a championship coach. They can sell this to LeBron, and guess what? He may stay. But obviously, it didn't work out. LeBron James goes to Miami. Now, in a sense, you done signed a contract and then what? I mean, what can you do? You're a competitor and whatnot, and you do want to be a professional in a sense. So you don't want to pull a Billy Donovan into Orlando Magic and then go back to what you were doing after you just signed a contract. But it just didn't work out. I mean, we don't know. We can't speculate on what exactly happened in a sense, but he probably did the best he could with what he had and whatnot. And I guess he should be straight now. I mean, his backcourt mate is now running the L.A. Lakers. He's probably doing something in a sense down the line with the L.A. Lakers. So everything works out in a sense. I mean, he seems very, very happy.
Well, that's good. That is good. Let's talk about Ray Allen. I am so happy for this brother. One of my all-time favorite players, both in college and in the NBA. This guy, one of the great three-point shooters ever, and a very quiet man, I'll be honest with you. But on the court, he was lights out, and I am very, very happy for the kind of career that he wound up having. Two-time NBA champion with the Celtics in 2008, and then with Miami in 2013. I'm very happy for Ray. I mean, this is. I'm glad that he didn't have to wait a long time to get his induction.
Yep, Jesus Shuttlesworth. Yeah. He played. For people that don't know, he played in Spike Lee's He Got Game.
It wasn't a bad actor either. It wasn't.
He did all right. He did all right. With Ray Allen, I don't think people understand. People remember him as the three-point shooter, but this dude could play. Yes. I mean, he was a great scorer. I mean, when he came with the Milwaukee Bucks, he played with Glenn Robinson, the Big Dog Robinson, Sam Cassell, and achieving Tim Thomas too, playoff success. I mean, at that time, at the time, sometimes when you're in, you're dealing with the '90s and stuff like that. You know, you got to deal with Jordan and whatnot, and you're not going to get too far. But in UConn, this is a dude that he didn't. Hey, you know something? He had handles.
Yes.
What you saw, if you ever seen He Got the Game and the handles he had when he was playing basketball in the movie, that's what he was doing at UConn. I mean, he could catch you if you got caught up under that rim. You were getting dunked on. And the one thing I remember about Ray Allen is them calves that he had. I mean, the dude had boulders for calves. I used to hate this dude. You know, I used to hate, you know what I'm saying? Because mine are like pipe cleaners or whatnot. But this dude had like bowling balls for calves, and you know how hard you have to work to achieve to build up a muscle like that. And that's basically what he said about his career. Yeah. He worked hard at it. It wasn't about talent. He didn't believe in talent. He believed on working with his craft. He had a routine. There are just things that he did to get ready to play basketball. I mean, come down to eating right, not going to McDonald's all the time, eating late night food, junk food, fast food, the weightlifting regimen that he had, the shooting regimen that he has. He has something on YouTube, like it's a routine of what he does every single time when he's working out on his jump shot. He even down to the point, if that shot's not going, he goes back to the free throw line and then shoots to get his rhythm back, and then he goes back to working on his shot. I mean, I think a lot of people don't understand how much work the NBA players put into this. We're talking about 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 shots a day. This is something that this guy did. And let me tell you something. You know your shoulders, after playing 4 or 5 games, to pick up your arms and back is about to get messed. It's just like quicksand or just like oatmeal. Yeah. Think about shooting 2,500, 3,000 shots a day. How much you have to be in shape just to do that. Yes. So this dude, I mean, it was his talent was at a level that we don't understand, because in the time of Milwaukee and Seattle, he could do it all. He was an all-around offensive player. Yes. When he gets to Boston, and he gets part of the big three with Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Rajon Rondo, and those guys that won those title teams, he turned into a specialist. Yeah. And again, when we talk about with Grant Hill, he knew enough and understood the game well enough that he could actually transcend his game and adapt to what his body could do or the system that his team played with to extend his career. That's what made this dude so great. You remember that shot that he that series championship saving shot that he had against San Antonio when he knocked down that three to send it into overtime.
Oh, did that hurt my heart? I was good.
But you know something?
Go ahead.
He said he works on that shot all the time. Who works on that shot? Who would even think about working on that shot all the time? That's all I work. That's a shot that I work on. And do you know how many points he scored in that game? 9.
Yeah.
But they were all in the fourth quarter and in
Yes.
overtime.
Yes. Oh, that
This
shot
guy,
hurt
I mean,
my heart.
it's about knowing the game of basketball and how to play. And you're seeing, we've said it over and over, and with all of these players that we've talked about, they have a supreme understanding of the game of basketball, and that's how they extend their careers. You see people like Allen Iverson, who left before he was left before he was supposed to. If he adapted the way these guys had, and he's a Hall of Famer, he's one of the greatest, he's one of my all-time favorite players. But if he adapts the way these guys we've talked about have adapted in their careers, he could have extended his career another 3 or 4 years, and he might have had the NBA title that he was chasing after for I don't know how many years.
Yes, that is true. Now, when I think about Ray and his years with the Celtics, the attitude that Garnett and Pierce had against him when he decided to go to Miami, I thought it was comical. Thank God it didn't bother Ray. But I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like, especially Garnett. Sometimes Garnett, as great a player as he was, he tends to act like a baby. It's like, what you think? The man's a free agent. He has a right to go where he want to go. It's like, come on. Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something else, too, and it's funny you bring that up because I actually wrote something on that, a Hall of Fame special, and it's soon to be published on LateShowLife.com for the Lakers. They're going to have to let this go, and Rajon Rondo is going to have to do this, too, and he has a lot to do with this as well. A lot of things behind the scenes was happening, and he felt he wasn't being respected for what he brings, what he brought to the table when he was playing for the Boston Celtics. And when somebody like Ray Allen, you can see, and he puts all the work that he puts into it, guys like that you want to respect.
Right.
And appreciate what they bring to the table. Because if they don't appreciate it, and rightfully so, you got to go on to somebody that appreciates what you're going to bring to their team or to their franchise. That's what Miami did. Miami said, listen here, we need you. That's it. When you're playing in Boston and you bring up that, hey, Rondo's not passing me the ball, he might be looking me off or something like that, and then two or three games later you're on the bench.
Yeah. What
kind of message did that send? And then when Miami and LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh say, hey, man, look, man, we need you down here. We can win a title, man. We need you to bring home this title for us. What you going to do?
I'm going to go there.
You're not appreciated. You're going to go to Miami.
That's right.
I mean, look at what happened with Kevin Durant when he went to Golden State. When you see Steph Curry, the two-time MVP, say, hey, man, look, we need you.
Yeah.
Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala. And these guys come to you, and they're champions. They beat your squad and say, look, we need you on our squad. We can do some special things. What you going to do? You're going to leave because you want to be where you want it and respect it.
And to this day, they still get on Durant for what he did, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him for going. He got his rings, and chances are he's going to stay there and try to see if we get another one. People forget what being a free agent is about. You have the right to go where you want to go. That's it.
And you need to go to some place where you're going to be happy.
Exactly.
I need that needs to be clear because I get very irritated and when I hear this loyalty thing. It's not loyalty, it's business. This is a business.
Yeah.
And let's be clear here. Russell Westbrook wanted to be the number one guy in Oklahoma City.
Well, he
understood that. And he and Durant understood that.
Right.
Durant wants titles. Durant is getting titles.
That's right.
He's now considered, and to be totally honest, I've always said this, LeBron James is not the best player in the world. It's Kevin Durant right now.
Ooh, Ron. He's
the best player in the world right now.
you may, I don't know how, if you said that somewhere on some other shows or whatever, but I'm pretty
I have.
sure. What kind of response do you get from that?
Usually it's a backlash, but you know something? Answer this. But answer this, though. Kevin Durant plays defense, right?
Yeah.
Kevin Durant plays defense, right?
Yeah.
Have you really seen LeBron James play any consistent lockdown defense since he left Miami?
Be honest.
I'll wait.
You.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Did you see the finals?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Could they? I mean, can you play the pick and roll? Can you rotate and rim protect and whatnot when they play that slip screen every single time, 25 times in a row?
Nah.
Now do you start to see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Both sides of the floor. Kawhi Leonard, if he can get his calf and get back healthy again. These are players that were better. And Kevin Durant has destroyed LeBron James in every single finals that they played in. And that includes the Miami-Oklahoma City series.
He did. You're absolutely right. Going back, if I check out highlights of that, that's a good point. He did.
He shot almost 70%. They should have won. The Thunder should have won. That should have won that year over Miami. But do you want to know why they did not win? Because Russell Westbrook would not continue to get the ball to Kevin Durant so he could continue to shoot 70% over LeBron James and the Miami Heat.
And meanwhile, James Harden kept missing one shot after another down the stretch.
Whose fault is that?
Yeah,
your point guard.
Yeah, that's right. That is right. One other question about Ray Allen. I don't know how true it is. I've heard this a long time ago. Did he used to represent himself in contract negotiations?
That part I do not know, but if he didn't, it doesn't surprise me. This dude is very, very smart. I mean, that's a very, very smart dude. He's very business savvy. His wife is a business owner. I mean, before he officially retired, I mean, you knew he was semi-retired for like 2 years before he really did.
Right.
That's what he was doing in Miami. He was setting up businesses in Miami. So it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't represent himself.
I think he's a finance major in Connecticut. I think so. And I heard something to the effect that he was his own agent, which is smart because you ain't got to pay that 10% to anybody.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't confirm or deny, but if he did represent himself, it doesn't surprise me none.
Yeah, but I'm very happy for his career. Scored 24,000 points. One of the that should put him in the top 20, maybe even top 10. But great career. I didn't realize he was in Uncle Drew. I didn't know that. That movie Uncle Drew.
I know he's one of the commercials, but I might have missed it. I might have missed it in a sense. Well, I know Reggie Miller was in it, but if Ray Allen was in it, I'm not sure. I think I missed him, but I know he did one of the commercials.
I'll tell you though, in He Got Game, that was the final scene where Ray and Denzel go one-on-one, and I know Spike uses he used a wide-angle lens on that one to catch the baskets going in. That was fun to watch. That was fun to watch. And Denzel, his game I know back then his game wasn't bad either. I mean, I don't know how many takes they had to do to film that segment, but I don't think with Ray and his shooting percentage, I didn't think you had to take that many takes. That's for sure.
Oh no, that dude could shoot. I mean, he was so smooth.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just so smooth. And when I said before, you can't buy rims without buying the car.
Right.
His car is paid off.
Yeah.
And he can tint the windows and put the rims on there because he understood the crossover, the behind the back, through the legs, and all that stuff. It was to get to a spot. It wasn't just to dance with the stars in front of your opponent. It's to get to a spot, get your shot off, knock down the shot, go back on defense.
Yes. Lefty Drizel. I'm happy for him. He had a excellent coaching career. There was some controversy at one point, but he had an excellent record as a coach, especially with Maryland. That was his best years. Their winning percentage of 550 was 348 and 159. I'm happy for him though. I know that. Uh, Now, if I'm not mistaken, this was around the time when he was coaching Maryland, the passing of Len Bias. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, yes,
Uh,
yes, yes.
mm,
Yes, yes. As a basketball fan, yeah, that hurt.
it
That
did.
hurt me because I'm gonna be honest with you. There at that time,
Mm-hmm.
there were two players, and I mean, you could stop basketball games to argue this, and I mean, the game would be over, but people would argue it. The argument was who was the better basketball player, Michael Jordan or Len Bias, and my vote was Len Bias because the guy was 6'8", 230 pounds, rock solid. And I mean, muscle bound with the most beautiful, perfect form on a jump shot you could ever have. I
Yeah.
mean, with lifted Giselle when he had Adrian Branch, Len Bias, and those guys, Derek Lewis, Keith Gatlin. Carolina they couldn't be beaten in the Dean Smith Center. They were undefeated for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
Maryland went in there and just smoked them. And I remember Len Bias just going in and I mean dunking on somebody and then stealing the ball and then coming out on a break and then just reverse dunked on Warren Martin. And I went,
Yeah.
oh my! And I mean, and these games were like 8, 9, 10 o'clock. Your parents sleep and whatnot, and I'm yelling, "Oh my God!" And I woke everybody up. That's how bad this dude was.
Mm-hmm.
The drop off the bite that Boston had when Bird, McHale, and Parrish and all those guys retired,
Mm-hmm.
and Reggie Lewis passing on. Len Bias was the next guy to carry that torch of Larry Bird. They would still be winning. There may not be a Jordan dynasty if Len Bias lived. That what if with Len Bias will always be attached to Lefty Giselle, no matter what he accomplishes. And
You.
listen, I mean, when you win 100 games with 4 different colleges and you take them all to the NCAA tournament,
Mm-hmm.
I get all that. It's fine. Davidson, University of Maryland, James Madison University, and Georgia State, and he could build a program like it was nobody's business. I get that, but and he's also the fourth. And at the time of retirement, he was the 4th winning NCAA Division I men's basketball coach, and 21 seasons of 20 more wins, 21 conference tournament titles. I mean, and the dude could play because I mean he played college basketball at Duke University. Like I said.
Mm-hmm.
Going to the Hall of Fame is about the body of work of all basketball. So this dude could play.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew how to build a team, and he had an understanding of what it took to build a program for NCAA tournament. But, man, you have to understand that that Len Bias what-if thing is something that all basketball fans still feel to this day. And it's that dark cloud is going to be attached to Lefty Giselle pretty much for the rest. That's going to be part of his legacy, like it or
Yeah.
not.
But I tell you, Boston, the Celtics felt that too because Bias was really the heir apparent to Larry Bird.
Yes.
You know, because Bird was aging, his career was winding down, his back, he had the chronic back issues, and eventually, by drafting Bias will eventually replace Bird at the small forward position. And when that happened, and he was drafted number
Number,
2, I
yeah.
think, yeah, because Philly drafted Brad Daugherty as number 1.
Yep, and understand something too. Boston had just won the title too. They just won the title, so you knew that he was going to be mentored because again, Red Auerbach was the guy that brought him in. They were going to mentor this guy, teach him how to play basketball, be a professional, teach him how the NBA game would have been played. The sky was the limit for this guy. The sky was the limit, and nothing against what happened because Lefty Driesell. I mean, think of other players that he played that he developed. Tom McMillan, who was an NBA star, Len McElmore, John Lucas. I mean, the things that he has done as a basketball player, tennis player, and even to this day, he's still part of the Houston Rockets organization as a consultant, as a player development type consultant. So these are guys that he understands and knows how to develop to be successful in the NBA. Albert King, Bernard King's brother, and Buck Williams. And you remember him? He was in the league for 10, 15 years. So these are guys that knew how to play, and they were good ball players. But Len Bias was just a crown jewel.
I'm thinking about that now. The teams that Philly would have been with if they did not trade their number one pick in Brad Daugherty, and because he would have fit well with Julius and Charles Barkley, who was in his now second year in the NBA. And they finally got a center to match up there. And then you've got Boston, who already had Bird, Parrish, McHale, and now you add Len Bias to the mix. That would have been one hell of a Eastern Conference final.
And see, that's the conversation you're having right now?
Yeah.
That's the conversation people are saying all over the world when you mention Lefty Driesell. See, with Lefty Driesell, you automatically link to Len Bias. It's almost like also read Len Bias, and then you go into all these stories and all these what ifs in a sense. And there's also another guy that I forgot, Lefty Driesell brought into Maryland, and he had signed him, but it didn't work out. Moses Malone.
Oh yes. Yeah.
He would have gotten Moses Malone, but guess what? Moses Malone filed a hard shift and went off to the ABA. So these are the type of talent. He knew talent. This guy knew talent, and he knew what he could bring into his program in a sense.
Yes. Well, we're happy for him. And I tell you, but like, and he's 86 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. God bless him. Still around. I'll talk briefly about Tina Thompson before I get to Rod Thorn. Tina, very happy for her. I remember her. She was one of the pioneers of the WNBA, the Houston Comets, along with Cheryl Swoops. They won their first, I think, 2-3 championships in the NBA, and that league is still going strong. Does it surprise you, the longevity of that league?
Yes, in a sense, because they've changed the marketing strategy and everything, and that's the one thing they've done. I think the NBA has done a better job of promoting the product. You see NBA players that are supporting the WNBA because listen here, I think a lot of people sleep on women's basketball. A lot of people now want to see the slam dunks. They want to see the long distance threes or something like things like that. But but again, basketball purists want to see fundamental basketball, and that's what the girls' game brings.
Yes.
Because I just saw last week Sue Bird went absolutely nuts playing against the Phoenix Mercury, and congratulations to the Seattle Storm franchise. They need to bring an NBA franchise back to Seattle. By the way, you can send this show to the NBA officers. But watching Sue Bird, I mean, it's one of the most exciting playoff series runs for the WNBA, maybe in history, and probably since the Houston Comets run when it first started with Lisa Leslie, Tina Thompson, Cheryl Swoops, and stuff like that. So, but I think again, Adam Silver is doing a better job of providing exposure and a platform for them to shine. So I think that's in a sense, because I don't think WNBA is going anywhere, because guess what? They're under the NBA umbrella. And as long as the NBA is eating, everybody under that umbrella is going to eat.
Yes. But I'm happy the league is still around, although if you compare the present league to what it was when it first started, a lot of new, a lot of teams relocated, some folded. They still have the LA Sparks. They still have the New York Liberty. I said the Phoenix Mercury. But it's still going around. Tina Thompson now is the head coach of the Virginia Cavaliers in the ACC. So very happy for one of the things I noticed about a lot of the former NBA players from the past, Dawn Staley, still coaching South Carolina. I think, now Teaspoon, she's in the front office for the Liberty, of which is the GM there is Isaiah Thomas, but that's a story for another day. I ain't crazy about that. But I'm happy for, the Houston Comets won the first 4 champions, the first 4 years in the league, and that was a hell of a team. Back then, them and the LA Sparks were the 2 best teams in the WNBA at the time. She was a 9-time WNBA All-Star. She had a great career, and in watching her play back then, she was fierce.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you something else too. And really, it's a shame that the Houston Comets are one of the teams that folded. You got to understand how dominating that team was. I mean, they had not only Tina Thompson and Cheryl Swoops, as you mentioned, the late Kim Perot, the late Kim Perot, she passed of cancer. Cynthia Cooper.
Yes.
Yeah, she could play. She was a beast. Let me tell you, she could take you to the liquor house and give you 40 points real quick too.
That's
so
right.
You had great players and whatnot. And shout out to Dawn Staley, and I'm gonna name drop because she is recruiting my cousin Shawnee to go to the University of South Carolina. So, and I had a crush on Shawn Staley when she was at the University of Virginia. She went to the University of Virginia when she had that salt and pepper cut, man. Everything number 24, man. So, and she could play too, man. And listen, guess who? And I read something. I read an article once. 6 degrees of separation. Who she patterned her game around after was Maurice Cheeks. So you can see, you can really see how all of this thing. It's all about knowing how to play the game of basketball. But with Tina Thompson, because her claim to fame and knowing how to market something, it was the lipstick. You remember she was known for the red lipstick every single game. She would play with the red lipstick.
Lord have mercy.
So she would do that all the time. And not only that,
she had big lips. I know.
But yeah, she and being one of the top 15 players of WNBA WNBA history, you understand that she was really one of the greatest pioneers, but one of the greatest players. And then throw this in: when you're leaving USC, when you went to USC, I mean, who went to USC? Who was the greatest USC women's player of all time? Cheryl Miller, right?
Yes.
When you're in that lineage, these are people that know how to play the game of basketball. And look, when you're averaging, you're a 20-point scorer at USC, and then you go to the WNBA, and you have at the time the most dominant player in Cheryl Swoops, and you have the most in Cynthia Cooper, who was a great player, Kim Perot, and you can actually sacrifice your game for championship winning. That's again shows you why she should be in the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that is true, and congratulations to her. Well deserved. I enjoy watching her play. As I said, she was fierce. She was a fierce rebounder.
Yep.
That's the thing I loved about her.
And a low post defender as well. So you got to have somebody that's willing to defend in the post, defend those Lisa Leslies, the Rebecca Lobos, those because at the time, those were the stars.
That's right.
Those centers, the center, the big men in a sense. For the ladies down there, you had to guard bigger players, and she was not a center. She was not a center in a sense, and to battle and defend and rebound and set up that fast break and be willing to take a back seat in a sense for the betterment of the team. That's what basketball is all about.
Yes. So congratulations to her. And last but not least, in talk about NBA Hall of Famers this year, Rod Thorn. Now, Rod, I'm realizing he wasn't a bad player when he played in the NBA from 63 to 71. Played for, started out with the then Baltimore Bullets. Then there was the Pistons, the St. Louis Hawks, Seattle Supersonics. Ended his career. He averaged 10 points a game as a player. Was actually was on an NBA All-Rookie team in 64, and but what most people know him for as an executive with first the Chicago Bulls, and then the job that he did with the Nets back then. In my opinion, I don't know if you agree, but as an executive, I felt that with his accomplishments, in my opinion, I think he was underrated. I don't think he got the credit that I feel that he deserved, and in his drafting skills. And I mean, well, what do you think?
The dude drafted Michael Jordan. Game over.
Yes,
that's it.
That's it.
Do we need to say anything else? The man drafted the greatest player, arguably of all time, of all eras. Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
The game as we know it is over. If he's been underrated, you do not know the game of basketball. We talk about Jason Kidd being traded from Phoenix to the New Jersey Nets. Who made the trade?
I know he did,
Rod
but a lot of people don't talk about him in the same breath as, like, say, what Pat Riley has done, or some of the other.
Red Auerbach, Jerry West, and those guys. I get that, but you know, sometimes again we talk about with Maurice Jakes being quiet. Sometimes you just do your thing. Who built the dream team? Rod Thorn.
Yeah.
Rod Thorn did these things. The greatest basketball team ever is never going to be duplicated again.
Nope. You're right.
Rod Thorn. So please stop it.
Okay.
You don't know because that, in a sense, is ridiculous. You need to read up on this guy. You obviously see this dude is smart. The dude went.
Yeah.
Went to West Virginia. Lineage of Jerry West, averaging more than 30 points a game as a senior. You already talked about what he did in his career, but understand it. Basically, you can see the entire message of this entire inductees. And I think young players and young kids that want to play this basketball game really need to read up on these guys, because he understands the game of basketball. I mean, the NBA announced that he was the president of basketball operations for the NBA.
Yeah, he did.
That's when you know somebody knows the game of basketball.
But you know,
when you say when you're saying he's a contributor and whatnot, people just think, well, okay, man, the guy wrote a couple of he wrote a couple of articles or whatnot and kept it, and it was pretty good. And he's some old guy, white guy that we did not know. Rod Thorn knew how to play some basketball, and he knew the game of basketball because he built franchises.
Yeah.
And the guy, and listen, nobody knew that coming out of Carolina that Michael Jordan was going to be the Michael Jordan that we know of today. Let's be clear on that. No one knew that. The guy didn't average more than 20 points at Carolina. The only person that could hold Michael Jordan to under 20 points was Dean Smith. That was a running joke. Yeah. Rod Thorn saw past that, drafted him at number 3, and said, hey, okay, cool. After that, it's all over. You trade Stephon Marbury. It hurt my feelings because I'm a Marbury fan. You trade him to Phoenix. And really, to be totally honest, it's next to nothing in a sense based on on the return on the investment. You bring Jason Kidd in, and they go, and the New Jersey Nets go to the finals 2 years in a row, and he's the general manager. Overlooked, yes. Underrated, yes. But that's But you know something? The people that know, people also know that it's totally ridiculous.
I agree. It's just that's the reason why I had to bring that up, because you hear about other GMs, and they don't talk about Rod Thorn and the accomplishments that he did and what he meant to the NBA. And I was like, why? I'm like, really? But as you said, when you have a quiet demeanor, people tend to, it's like a out of sight, out of mind kind of attitude.
Yes. Yes.
I'm just amazed what he did for the Nets. I mean, which earned him NBA Executive of the Year in 2002. And
you have to draft. And look what he drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, you bring in, you draft, you make the trade for Richard Jefferson. Yeah. You bring in Keith Van Horn.
Mm-hmm.
You have Kenyon Martin. You bring in Jason Kidd to as the hub to lead the young talent, and then they go to the NBA Finals. This is something a general manager has to do. Listen, the Golden State Warriors are the class of the NBA.
Right.
And you know something? Everybody in the NBA is trying to catch up with them and trying to figure out how to beat this squad. But it starts in the front office. It starts with the ownership group. It starts with the general manager and the head basketball operations and the coaching staff. Because if those three levels of basketball hierarchy are not on the same page, what you going to get on the floor? Dysfunction. That's why you see a lot of bad teams going on a lot of bad teams that are playing right now. They're in the NBA because their front office isn't strong. Rod Thorn is one of the best at what he does.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel he should have went to the Knicks. Maybe they may have finally win a championship, because Lord knows especially the group that they got now, they ain't gonna do nothing.
Well, I don't know. That part I don't know. Me being a Knicks fan. First off, they got rid of Phil Jackson, which is very, very important. But you got to understand now they got David Fizdale in there. They got a certain level of
Well, I don't know about Fizdale. I think he could do something, but it's Steve Mills. What's his name? Perry. I think that's his name.
Scott Perry.
Scott Perry. And then you got the idiot above them in James Dolan.
But I think James Dolan's going to take a step back, and I'm hoping. I'm just going to say I'm hoping in this sense because I'm a Knicks fan. But understand now. Listen, that's history.
Yeah.
First African-American front office in any sport in history. Let's be clear on that, in a professional sport. So we got to give a shout-out to the Knicks for that. But bringing David Fizdale in, you're going to have to get this guy time. They're going to stink next year. But you got to understand they got cap space. If they can get Joakim Noah out and they can stretch him, get that stretch provision on him and get his salary off the books, they have to clean up what Phil Jackson has done for the last, 3-4 years that he was there. Yeah. That's the problem. With the Lakers, they've already done it. They had to get rid of Mitch Kupchak's and Jim Buss's mistakes.
Now
that they have done that, now they can move on. Now the New York Knicks are in the same problem. They got to get rid same boat. They have to get rid of the mistakes of Phil Jackson, and then after that, they can build from there. But they're pretty good they're in a good direction going into not this year, but the next year with free agency. They may be able to get Kyrie Irving and Jimmy Butler to team up and go to the New York Knicks. That's a possibility. They got opportunities for free agents. They got cap space to sign somebody. Hopefully then they can start there. But it has to start in the front office, and I think the New York Knicks have finally got a stable front office to make moves so the product on the floor will be better.
Well, we'll see. The direction of the Nets, do you like where they're headed? Do you like what's going on?
Absolutely, because again, they're not going to be a good team because again, they had to clean up the mess of the previous regime, which being Billy King, overpricing contracts, the Kevin Garnett trade, trading away all these first round picks.
Oh my God! Ugh.
I mean, they're just getting out from under that now. They know they had to get lower level talent. They can't draft. They couldn't draft for years. They weren't going to be able to build their team. But with Sean Marks taking over in the front office, looking overseas, mining the overseas talent over there, the international talent over there, and cleaning up the books on the salary cap and lowering their luxury tax bill, I feel in a couple of years they'll be okay. But you had to know as soon as Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce leaving, and those guys, that trade was so bad in a sense that it crippled the franchise future-wise going forward. And the Brooklyn Nets are going in the right direction. It's just going to be a little bit long. It's going to take a couple of years for them to fully get out from the hole, dig themselves out of the hole that they were in.
I agree. I like Sean Marks. I think he and Kenny Atkinson are really together. They seem to be on the same page, and it's going to take a while. Hopefully, D'Angelo Russell stays healthy because I think he's a big part. They did the smart thing and get rid of Jeremy Lin because he was a waste for 2 years. The injuries will happen, but he contributed absolutely nothing. So we'll see. San Antonio pretty much is in a rebuilding stage now with Manu Ginobili announcing his retirement recently. All that's left now is LaMarcus Aldridge and Paul Gasol. They're not going to win 50 games this year. I doubt that very seriously. But will they have a winning record this year?
Yes, they will, because you still have Mr. Greg Popovich coaching that squad, who's probably one of the best coaches in NBA basketball. And again, throw in the fact that there's not a lot of good teams in the NBA.
Right.
So if you compete, which you will under Greg Popovich, that's number one. And you have a structured system, which Greg Popovich tends to implement at times. Yes, they'll probably get 45, 46 games. I understand that. And then you got LaMarcus Aldridge that is a 20. He can actually get 25 or 15 a night if he's engaged, and he knows he's going to be the number one option. So I think it can happen. And this had to happen. We had to move on from the Manu Ginobili, the Tony Parkers because they played for years.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Tony Parker going into his 19th year. And also, you forget, they brought DeMar DeRozan in the Kawhi Leonard trade. They got him locked in for the next 3 years. So he knows he's going to be there with a big chip on his shoulder. So this is a guy that really wants to show the Toronto Raptors that they have made a huge mistake. And if Kawhi Leonard leaves Toronto, you will realize that they did make a huge mistake, and Masai Ujiri will be out of a job. You heard it here first.
Yeah. Okay. All right. One of the last things I'll talk to you about, you cover the Lakers. LeBron's there now, which in my opinion did not surprise me. A lot of people were like, why is he going there? I had people say things like he should have gone to Philly. And I'm saying, why? Philly's rebuilding. They had a great year last year with Ben Simmons healthy and Joel Embiid. Why should LeBron be there?
Okay, Steve, let me, all right. To everybody that asked this question, let me tell you why. The man has a media production company in L.A.
Yeah.
Where do you shoot movies?
In L.A.
Los Angeles, right?
Yeah. Well, I
Doesn't
agree.
he has an HBO show, right? The Shop, right?
Yes. He's got a game show too, The Wall. Something like that, where they win $1 million or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Where do they shoot these things?
L.A. Okay,
then. That's number one. Number two, you need to pay attention to what Magic Johnson is doing in L.A. Showtime 3.0 is coming back, and I mean it's coming back really, really soon. They have really built up a squad. They got salary cap space. They got young players that they have not lost. Out of all that Kawhi Leonard stuff that was going on and all the moves that were going on and trying to move Lou Alding's contract and things like that, they haven't lost one player, and they have not lost one draft pick.
No, you're right. Oh, well, I felt that LeBron. I didn't have a problem with LeBron going to the Lakers anyway because at this point of his career, he's got nothing to prove. I mean,
yes, he does. That's where I disagree. He does have something to prove. If you're allegedly the best player in the world, your job is to win championships. Your job is not to get smoked by Golden State every single year in the finals. So if you're the best player in the world,
but Ron, that's not his fault. I mean,
really?
I mean, the team this year, the Cleveland team this year, he had nobody with the exception of maybe Kevin Love. J.R. Smith did absolutely nothing. That team, Cleveland, should have been eliminated in the first round by Indiana. But
absolutely.
But LeBron carried that team by himself to the NBA Finals.
I agree. And listen, but here's the problem. You wanted Tristan, but LeBron James wanted Tristan Thompson re-signed. Are you going to pay that man $80 million?
Hell no. I wouldn't have gave it to him in the first place.
Exactly. But LeBron James wanted him. They asked, and guess what? They said, okay, we'll accommodate you. How about J.R. Smith? Is he worth sitting there? Listen here. I am a J.R. Smith fan.
You are?
But let's be clear here.
Okay.
Is that man really worth $57 million?
No.
Okay, then. But guess who wanted him in the lineup? LeBron James. Understand something. It's all about, and I understand you want your money, you want your max deals. That's fine, no problem. But you're going to eat up most of your salary cap. But you can't make trades out the woodworks to build your squad, because a lot of the signings that they had that he wanted, hamstrung the franchise, and they couldn't build a team to challenge the Golden State Warriors. And oh, by the way, Kyrie Irving wanted to be traded. If you're as powerful as you quote unquote walk around the NBA claiming to be, you do everything in your power to make sure Kyrie Irving stays in a Cleveland Cavaliers uniform. That's it.
He did not want to play under LeBron. That's why I think that was one of the main reasons why he wanted out of Cleveland.
There were reports that LeBron James went to the front office and they wanted to get him traded out of town and bring Eric Bledsoe and Paul George to Cleveland. They wanted to set up a deal that way. That's what irritated Kyrie Irving. That's why Kyrie Irving wanted to go to Boston. He wanted to be traded, and he went to Boston.
I don't know. The reason why I say that is that has nothing to prove at this point. A 15-year career so far, 9 NBA final appearances, 3 championships. An extraordinary career. Although a lot of people say, well, he's only 3-6 in NBA finals. Yeah, but you've been to 9 of them in a 15-year career, the last 8 in a row. I mean, that is a major accomplishment.
It is. Absolutely. I agree with you. It is, but understand what you're saying. But it depends on what he wants to go to LA for. Does he want to go to LA for championships? Because that's what the Lakers are about, especially his boss, Magic Johnson, especially Miss Jenny Buss.
Right.
Her daddy, Dr. Jerry Buss. Buss, may he rest in peace, no longer with us now.
Right.
He was about winning championships and entertaining people.
Right.
That was the mission statement. LeBron James is going to have to get down with that. They're in it for championships. Now, if he's out there to build up his brand and build up his businesses, that's fine, no problem. But don't go out there saying and telling the Lakers fans, hey, I'm here to win championships, and I'm going to bring the Lakers back to prominence, or this, that, and the third. Can't do that. You got to pick one or the other, or do both. That's what I'm saying when it comes to the Lakers, because it's going to be very, very interesting. But with LeBron James, and listen, he put the Lakers back on the map. Let's be clear on that.
Yeah, he did.
Free agents want to come there.
Yes.
Because they couldn't even pick up. I mean, they couldn't even get free agents on the phone.
Nope.
As bad as Carmelo Anthony has fallen off. Even he didn't want to go. They were chasing him around the. They were chasing him all around the country to sign with them when he went back to the New York Knicks.
Right.
So there's a lot. LeBron didn't want to go there 4 years ago. D Wade didn't want to go. Bosh. All these guys, they signed with other teams. LeBron James by himself has said, "Hey, LA is cool to play. Is a cool place to play. This is the franchise you want to be." 5 years ago, for the last 5 years, to be totally honest with you, the Clippers was the LA team you wanted to be around. Now it's the Lakers again. Now all is right in the world in LA again. That's about with LeBron James. That's my analysis of what's going on at this moment.
Lonzo Ball. Do you see potential in that young man? Because I also said I was glad to see LeBron go to the Lakers to try to help him become a leader. Do you think that's possible, or
Sure, if his daddy LeVar Ball shuts up.
Oh, that's the other thing. His dad is a moron.
Sure, if LeVar Ball shuts up, that'll be fine. But it's not about LeBron James mentoring Lonzo Ball. It's going to be Rajon Rondo. And I'll actually send you a link of the article I wrote about Rajon Rondo because for some reason everybody criticizes his signing. This is going to be the underrated signing that's going to put the LA Lakers in a position to succeed in the future. This is a guy that actually can be a sheriff in the locker room. He could be a liaison between LeBron James and the young guys, getting them to understand what's going on in a sense, showing them how to be professionals. It's going to be Rajon Rondo that helped Lonzo Ball, not LeBron James. I mean, LeBron James is going to help in a sense because, I mean, with his presence, that's a given. But the day-to-day operations of mentoring is going to be on Rajon Rondo. So with that being said, will Lonzo Ball get better? Sure. Do I think he'll be around long? If he gets to the point that Toronto Raptors can't keep Kawhi Leonard, and he said, my heart's set on going back to LA, and they have to make a trade, Lonzo Ball might easily be in Toronto.
I'll tell you though, I was surprised when Rondo left the Pelicans. After the kind of season that the Pelicans had, I thought the combination of Rondo and Anthony Davis was excellent, along with Drew Holiday. And I was like, I was stunned when he signed with the Lakers. I said, okay.
That's the LeBron effect. That's the LeBron effect. Who wouldn't want to play with him? I mean, you're at the end of the year. You got a chance to go far in the playoffs. Listen. You sitting back and it's like the Lakers are going to be the Beatles. Any place they go into any arena they go into, they're going to be rock stars. And who wouldn't want to be a part of that? And you're playing with, I mean, Magic Johnson's running the operations with Rob Pelinka and Jenny Buss. Who wouldn't want to be part? That is a smooth running machine that's going on in LA. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that? And with Anthony Davis coming up soon that can opt out of his contract soon, hey, Time to get off. I mean, get on the lifeboat before the Titanic sinks.
I'll tell you, the player that I'll be interested in checking out is Kuzma. He had a great rookie year. I like this kid, and I think he's going to have a excellent career in the NBA. I don't know if he's going to be a superstar, but I think I see him as a steady player who will continue to improve each year.
Well, with that, I think it depends on if he continues to work hard. If he continues to work hard and listen to the coaching staff and the veterans that are on the team, I think, and he latches himself on to Rondo or LeBron James and continues to work hard and listen to Luke Walton and try to learn his system and get it adapted real quickly, work on his jump shot, which he needs to continue to work on. I agree. I think he will be a great pro. Another player on the Lakers that you need to look out for, Josh Hart as well.
Yes.
Because again, you mentioned Lonzo Ball. Listen, Lonzo Ball has got some heat on him. He's going to have to play well because he cannot continue to shoot roughly 30% from the field.
Right.
Play bad defense. There were times he was benched in the fourth quarter for the lack of defense he was playing. These things he's going to have to work on. He's going to have to improve on. He's had injury problems in his early in his career, but he's going to have to adapt to the NBA game faster than he probably realized when he was coming in. In the beginning, it was all about Lonzo Ball last year. They handed the keys to the franchise to him. Now LeBron James is here. The mission statement has changed. Now his game has to adapt. We've talked about adapting from all these players that's in the Hall of Fame. This is what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to find a way, find his niche, get his part, figure out where he can contribute within the system of the LA Lakers. Right. That's what's going to keep him around.
Okay, and one final question before I let you go, and this has been fun, man. It was great to have you back on the show. Golden State. Do they get another ring this year?
Warriors in 5. It'll be a sweep if they don't turn the ball over.
Really? All right, then who's coming out of the East?
Boston, but I need Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward to stay healthy. My God, I need them to stay healthy. Boston would have made the finals had Kyrie Irving not had his that infection in his knee.
All right. So you got so this year is Golden State and Boston, and you got, if they stay healthy, Golden State in the sweep. Wow.
Warriors in 5. Sweep if they don't turn the ball over.
All right. Well, on that note, Ron, this has been fun. Great to have you back. Let the people know what are the websites where they could catch you, and where they could check you out during the course of the NBA season. Okay,
and there's a lot. So for the Los Angeles Lakers, it's lakeshowlife.com. Lake, L-A-K-E, S-H-O-W, life, L-I-F-E.com. For the Atlanta Hawks, look, they're not going to be a good team, but please support the website anyway. Hawks Hoop, HAWKSHOOP.net. .net, not .com, but .net. Okay. That's going to be all Atlanta Hawks all the time. You can get at me on my LinkedIn page, Ronald Agers. I look at that a lot. I post a lot of my articles on there. Okay. And my Twitter handle is Sport singular, S-P-O-R-T World Order. And soon we'll have a Sports World Order YouTube page channel that's going to have some more stuff with video and stuff like that. We're now trying to figure out what's legal to put on so you don't get sued or not. Another thing, copywriting laws. We're trying to figure that out, and that's what we're doing right now. And soon we're going to have a podcast. I'm trying to be like you when I grow up, Steve. Have a podcast. Have a podcast, but something, it's not going to be a podcast. It's going to be a pod access to the truth. So we're going to have that in effect too. So right now it's about those articles, Then YouTube channel will be next, Sports World Order, and then the podcast will be later. And basically, I just go around and just continue to be on shows like yours with radio shows and podcasts.
All right. Well, when you get that podcast together, I would like to be your first guest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not a problem.
I hear you. Well, this was great, man, and continued success, and especially for this upcoming NBA season. I know you are going to be a very, very busy man. So
Absolutely.
Until next time, we'll talk down the road. So you can take care, and God bless.
All right, man. Thank you for having me on.
All right, you got it. Source Nation, sports writer for True Hoops Network. He covers the Atlanta Hawks. He covers the Los Angeles Lakers. It's Ronald Agers, and this was great. We discussed the NBA Hall of Fame inductees, and you hear him talking about the Lakers, and I'll tell you, the Lakers are going to be pretty much going to be on national TV every week. So you're going to get a lot of LeBron, Rondo, Lonzo Ball, Kuzma. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So until I just want to again thank Ronald for coming on. And that is it for me. This was fun. I love, as you can tell, I love talking basketball. Well, I love talking all of it, but, this was great. The NBA Hall of Famers this year, well-deserving. It was a great group this year, one of the best in a while. So it was great. Congratulations to them. And we'll definitely look forward to the NBA season coming up. Camp is in about a couple of weeks. Then we have preseason games in October. And, of course, the regular season will begin around the beginning of November. That's how it goes. All right. Well, that is it for me. So until next week, as I always say, be good and be safe. Take care, everybody.
Get at me for beats, y'all.